どうも、ハーフの花です。皆さん、こんにちは。Today we're going to be talking about the JET program as promised. This is going to be kind of intro to the JET program, kind of what it's all about for those who haven't heard about it, and just kind of trying to get the word out there. And maybe just a kind of refresher for those of us who do know about the JET program. So without further ado, let's get into it. So what is the JET program? It's basically, in layman's terms, an opportunity to live and work in Japan for 1 year at a time. What I mean by that is that you can have your contract renewed up to 5 years, I believe it is. So if you if you get through the application process and all that, the interview, and you get placed, and yay, everybody's happy, and you go to Japan and you work, and they want to renew the contract, then they will, and they can up to 5 years. It's basically headed by the Japanese government, so you will technically be employed by the Japanese government, which is kind of cool. And you get paid via the people's taxes, the people of Japan, their taxes. So the basics of the JET program. The basic requirements are a bachelor's degree in any major. It doesn't matter. You could have majored in scratching dogs for a living. Like, it literally does not matter. You don't have to be a Japanese major, you don't have to have a Japanese minor, you don't even have to have a certificate or anything like that, but you do have to have a bachelor's degree. This is for visa purposes, for working visa purposes, and it also helps to have a passion for Japanese culture and the want to live in Japan for at least a year. This is something that's kind of obvious on the surface, but when people actually get into it, a lot of times people who kind of have a hard time and with the culture shock and whatnot, and maybe even come back early, or they kind of terminate their contract. I think maybe some of the reason could be that there wasn't enough research done initially before all of it. So I'll say this again many times throughout this video, but please take as a precautionary measure research about Japanese culture. I'm not talking about anime, I'm not talking about even like Japanese dramas or anything like that, even though those are great tools to kind of get some kind of insight. But read a book about Japanese culture, or if you're not into books, maybe look for a documentary, because they're very different from America, obviously, but in a lot of times in little ways that people don't realize, until you go over there and you actually have to live there and work there. So although you're not going to get everything from just reading a book or watching a documentary, I think it'll definitely help to take the edge off of some of the culture shock that is kind of inevitable. So the application process, basically it's kind of self-explanatory. You go this year. It's obviously the application process is well on the way. There was some technical difficulties. I'm sure any of you who are applying for JET this year saw that. It's kind of like makes me a little nervous. But anyhow, they seem to have, or they are getting those things under control and getting everything fixed, so we should be able to, if not already, apply for everything by now. So you will apply once online. There's like an application form that you fill in online, and then you will also fill one out on the printout version. And I'm going to put a link down below in the description box to the checklist on the actual website. It's got a list of all the documents that you need and all of that, and like I said, it's very self-explanatory. You just fill out the forms and whatnot. However, there are two aspects of the application process that are very, very important and kind of detrimental to you getting an interview. One is the SOP, or the Statement of Purpose, and the other is your reference letters. Now, the SOP obviously is kind of all on your shoulders. Within the SOP, you'll be talking about why the JET program. Why did you choose this particular program? What is it that you have to offer to JET, not just what you think JET can give to you? Because you have to remember that you're going to be an employee. Should you get through all of the process and make it through the interviews, you'll be hired on and work for the JET program. They're going to pay you a salary and all of that, so you have an obligation to offer something to them. You'll also be talking about not just why JET, but why Japan. What interests do you have in Japan? How do you think you can benefit Japanese culture and the people of Japan? It sounds kind of daunting, but just simple things like bring a little bit of if you're Hispanic, bring a little bit of your Hispanic culture. Just small things like, do you like American literature? Do you like American films? Stuff like that. And lastly, talk a little bit about how all of this will benefit you, and how what you're going to do with the knowledge that you receive while you're in Japan and go back to your respective countries. How are you going to share it? Are you going to join the alumni JET program? How will you be sharing the information you received with your community? So that's kind of the basics of the SOP, and if you want, please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll do a specific video on the SOP. Anything that will help somebody who's maybe struggling or feel like they will be struggling when they apply for the JET program. So just let me know down below, and I'll get started on that video as well. The second thing that I mentioned was the reference letters. So for your reference letters, you need to have at least one person that you know for sure is going to say good things about you, good things about your character, good things about your work ethic. The reason why is because during the interview process, if there's anything negative in those reference letters, they're going to come out and ask you about it. And that's kind of the whole point of the interview process. And you need to be ready for that. So it helps to have at least one person that you know is going to say good things and kind of back you up. The second person, obviously, it also helps to have somebody who's going to say good things about you. But as long as you have that one good reference, I think you should be fine. For me, I asked my Japanese professor, which I know, she's going to give me a good reference. She's going to really back me up and really kind of, try to show that I'm JET material. My second reference is a professor that I met this semester. She's my religions professor, my East Asian religions professor, and she's very nice. She's been very helpful. I really think that she's going to give me a good reference as well. Next, we're going to talk about the interview process. This is kind of the scary part of the application process because of the panel. Now, it's basically supposed to be like a 20 to 30 minute interview, so not that long. And you'll have a panel of three people. I've heard of it sometimes being only two, but usually there's three. One will be a representative of Japan. One will be either like some kind of scholar, like a Japanese professor, or somebody of that along those lines, and then one will be a JET alumni. I've heard all kinds of variations, like everybody in my panel was lovely. They were all, very talkative and nice people, and it went by without a cinch. I've also heard, kind of which seems to be more of like the norm. They have one person who kind of does the bad cop thing, where they ask a lot of really kind of harder questions, some that might even make you a little uncomfortable, and kind of try to back you into a corner to see how you're going to answer and how you're going to react to those situations. I've also heard, like 2 of them didn't talk, and then the one that did was, asking me all these hard questions, and it was really scary and all of that. But then, they came out and they made it. So there really is no rhyme or reason, it seems. But the most important thing to remember is that they're there to test you. And one thing that I've read quite frequently that I really think is very prevalent to the interview process is that when you get through to the interview, the job is now yours to lose. So you need to go in there with your best face, up your game a little bit, turn it up a notch, so to speak, and really show them that you're very passionate and this is really what you want to do. And, kind of hope for the best. Some, like, the 3, or rather 2, like, common questions that you'll hear a lot if you've kind of read any blogs or watched any videos about interviews is 1, the mock lesson, and 2, things about Japanese culture or Japanese politics. So those are things to kind of keep in mind. If you haven't had any teaching experience, you don't need any, but you need to keep in mind that maybe it's very possible that they'll ask you to do a mock lesson. What I suggest for this is just go out and look for mock lessons on the internet. It doesn't need to be perfect, and it definitely doesn't need to be like this 10-minute long lesson, but it helps to have a little bit of structure and to show that you do have the ability to follow a mock lesson plan and also present that to a group of children. So keep that in mind. That's kind of important. And also stuff about Japanese culture. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go out and like research everything about Japanese culture and memorize all the names of Japanese politicians and all this stuff and like know the history of Japanese politics and all of that. I'm not saying that, but some very kind of generic knowledge about Japanese politics and Japanese culture in general would help. Who's the Prime Minister of Japan? Who's the Emperor? What is Ikebana? Stuff like that. So next we're going to talk about kind of the placement process. This is kind of the fun part of the application process, and it happens on your actual application form. So you can put you can request 3 places on there, and I believe it also gives you like a space to write your reasons why. So if anybody has been researching about the JET program on YouTube, I'm sure you've come across My Argonauts Jason. I hope he doesn't mind me name dropping. I'm sure he doesn't even know I exist, but I'll link his channel in the down bar down below. But really, really great stuff. I mean, so much information. He was in the JET program for like 5 years. I hope he doesn't mind me just, talking about all of that. But anyways, and so he has a lot of information. One thing that I really appreciate about his videos is that he interviews a lot of people, and so you get a lot of kind of different content, not just from him, but from others as well. He has like playlists of the application process, like he goes by like page by page of the application and all of that. But anyhow, I say all this to say this. I agree with him in terms of what he said about the placements. Some people are just like, I'm not going to put anywhere because I'd love to be anywhere in Japan. And I mean, I feel the same way too. But the thing is that if you don't put anywhere on there, it kind of looks like you didn't put in the effort. And of course, I'm not saying that you didn't, but you have to remember that, these people haven't met you. It's all kind of on paper. And so putting at least one place on there shows that, you did some research about it. You looked at a map of Japan and you're like, this looks like a nice place for whatever the reason it is. And that's also one thing that I want to talk about, is that if and when you pick a place, research it. I'm not saying you need to know everything about it, but like if you want to go to Osaka, I'm not saying you need to know about all of the festivals, all the matsuris that they have, and all of the, food that's famous there, and all of the, you don't need to know all of that, but you need to research it at least a little bit. And where it is, it'd be kind of embarrassing if they asked you, oh, where is, that located? And you're like, I actually don't know. And the biggest thing that you need to do is have a reason why you want to go there. It doesn't need to be like this big philosophical, reason, but just something that is logical and reasonable. I think Jason's example was that he didn't like cold temperatures. He was from a warmer region of America, and so he didn't think that he would fare well in like Hokkaido or somewhere north. So he chose somewhere in the like southern area of Japan. So that's obviously a good enough reason he got through, and I believe he got placed somewhere close to where he wanted to be. So yeah, be sure that you pick at least one place and you put it on there and you have a good reason and kind of, have that memorized for the interview. The last thing I'm going to kind of talk about is tips for aspiring jets. These are kind of things that now that I'm applying, I wish that I had done, and it's kind of too late for me now, but I really want to pass on to other people who are wanting to apply next year, or whenever it is that you guys want to apply. Number one is volunteer out the wazoo. I know that I go to a very untraditional college where a lot of us work and a lot of people commute to school and all of that, and so there isn't a lot of time I found throughout my college career that I had to volunteer. But it's very important, and any chance you get, even if it's something very small, you need to do it. And you need to have documentation of it so that you can prove that you volunteered. But the most important thing is that you volunteer, because it shows a sense of community. It shows that you want to help and be a part of your community and all of that. Also, kind of along those lines, seek out cultural clubs or activities or festivals, things along that line, because it shows that you're interested in culturalization, internationalization, which is what JET is all about. So it's very important to be able to show that and be able to document that as well. And also, you need to show some kind of activism within your community. Obviously, volunteering would be part of that. Joining clubs or activities would be part of that. But, small things like, did you do a fundraiser, or were you part of a walk, or, something like that would be very good to add to your kind of resume. The last thing that I want to say is, and I kind of talked about this earlier, but it's very important to research about Japan. I know it sounds stupid, and a lot of people, are probably thinking that, of course I've researched about Japan. I'm not stupid, Hana, duh. But I think it's something that kind of gets overlooked because maybe you're so passionate about, one aspect or another of Japan. It's important to keep in mind that a lot of us will be placed in rural areas, and those places are very traditional and very, very Japanese. And there are a lot of differences because of that. The whole, there's the kind of very generic, take your shoes off in the house and all of that, but there's a lot of things that transcend that and go past that as well. So, just for your sake, kind of doing yourself a favor and kind of help to take the edge off of any kind of culture shock that you may have, do your research about it, you know, and hopefully that'll make things a lot easier for your whole jet experience. That's going to be it for this video. Thanks for sticking around. I'm sorry that it's so long, but I kind of wanted to, you know, talk about as many aspects as I could in this video. Again, if there's anything that I left out or there's any specific questions that you have, please leave them down below, and I'll do kind of a Q&A on the JET program as well and answer all the questions that I can. So thanks for watching, guys. Oh, I wanted to mention, I got my first subscriber and I am so excited. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I've just been calling her Kelsan. But if you're watching this, thank you so much, and I can't even express to you how appreciative I am. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors and whatnot. But anyways, if you want, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Done it! Bye.